Yeah, so basically, in the last 5 sessions, we have covered the first 3 paragraphs of this chapter called Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta in the first session. Then, in the next 4, we have covered 1 para each, mainly because of the depth in which we tried to go into the text, and especially last time not too many people were there, so we took our own sweet time, right? um, we have to begin from here, almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge. Lot of things have been covered in this chapter till now. It'll be, I mean, difficult to summarize 7 paragraphs like this, but basically the you could say, in a sense, the chronological development of the spiritual thought in India, how it has developed: Veda, Upanishad, Gita, etc. Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, sabka basically very, very deep. And those who have missed some of these sessions, uh, it would be matlab, recommended to go through the recordings at least, right? Um, yeah. So in the last paragraph, essentially what he's saying is that the difference which had been established by the time of the Veda between the Karma Kanda basically and the um, Vedanta, which was the Brahmavada basically. So uh, yeah, that is there. The Gita dismisses it very strongly in the second chapter, and so we'll just continue reading from this one, the paragraph today. Dhaval, Mumana, Yogi, Harish, Baroda ji. Yogesh bhai, would you like to read?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge is a strong, almost a violent censure and repudiation of the Vedavada, this flowery word which they declare, who have not clear discernment, devoted to the creed of the Veda, whose creed is that there is nothing else, souls of desire, seekers of paradise. It gives the fruits of the works of birth. It is multifarious with specialities of rights. It is directed to enjoyment and lordship as its goal. The Gita even seems to go on to attack the Veda itself, which, though it has been practically cast aside, is still to Indian sentiment intangible, inviolable, the sacred origin and authority for all its philosophy and religion. The action of the 3 gunas is the subject matter of the Veda. But do thou become free from the triple guna, O Arjuna? The Vedas, in the widest terms, all the Vedas, which might well include the Upanishads also, and seems to include them, for the general term Shruti is used later on, are declared to be unnecessary for the man who knows. As much use as there is in a well with water in flood on every side, so much is there in all the Vedas for the Brahman who has the knowledge. Nay, the scriptures are even a stumbling block. For the letter of the word, perhaps because of its conflict of texts and its various and mutually dissentient interpretations, bewilders the understanding, which can only find certainty and concentration by the light within. When thy intelligence shall cross beyond the world of delusion, then shalt thou become indifferent to scripture heard or that which thou hast yet to hear. Gantasi nirvedyam
Gantasi.
shrota Gantasi nirvedyam shrota vyasya.
Gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha.
Right. When thy intelligence, which is bewildered by the Shruti Vipratipanya, shall
Pan-
stand. Yeah.
Shruti Vipratipanna. That's okay.
Okay. Shall stand unmoving and stable in samadhi. Then shalt thou attain to yoga. So offensive is all this to conventional religious sentiment that attempts are naturally made by the convenient and indispensable human faculty of text twisting to put a different sense on some of these verses. But the meaning is plain and hangs together from beginning to end. It is confirmed and emphasized by a subsequent passage in which the knowledge of the knower is described as passing beyond the range of Veda and Upanishad.
Right.
Sab dar the brahmati vartate.
Yeah. Shabda Brahmati Vartate.
Shabda
Shabda
Brahma
Brahma Ati Vartate.
Vartate.
Yeah.
Right.
Going beyond the Shabda Brahma. Okay. Ideally, we should also read the next paragraph, but um, okay. क्या करना चाहिए? Okay, we'll first cover this, then उस पे आता हूँ. Otherwise, too much you
Let's
read
go,
and then you can't explain the first one also. Tell me.
let us go through the next paragraph also. Then we can come back.
मेरे को भी वही लग रहा है, तो चलो ठीक है, कर लेते हैं. We'll try to finish both.
Okay, I'll read it.
आप पढ़ेंगे अरोड़ा जी? Will you read?
I'll read it.
Please read.
Let us see, however, what all this means. For we may be sure that a synthetic and Catholic system like the Gitas will not read such important parts of the Aryan culture in a spirit of mere negation and repudiation. The Gita has to synthesize the yoga doctrine of liberation by works and the Sankhya doctrine of liberation by knowledge. It has to fuse karma with jnana. It has at the same time to synthesize the Purusha and Prakriti idea common to Sankhya and Yoga with the Brahmavad of the current Vedanta, in which the Purusha, Deva, Ishvara, Supreme Soul, God, Lord of the Upanishads, all become merged in the one all-swallowing concept of the immutable Brahman. And it has to bring out again from its overshadowing by that concept, but not with any denial of it, the yoga idea of the Lord of Ishvara. It has to its own luminous thought to add, the crown of its synthetic system, the doctrine of the Purushottama and of the triple Purusha, for which, though the idea is there, no precise and indisputable authority can be easily found in the Upanishads, and which seems indeed at first sight to be in contradiction with that text of the Shruti where only two Purushas are recognized. Moreover, in synthesizing works and knowledge, it has to take account not only of the opposition of yoga and Sankhya, but of the opposition of works to knowledge in Vedanta itself, where the connotation of the two words and therefore their point of conflict is not quite the same as the point of the Sankhya Yoga opposition. It is not surprising at all, one may observe in passing, that with the conflict of so many philosophical schools, all founding themselves on the text of the Veda and Upanishad, the Gita should describe the understanding as being perplexed and confused, led in different directions by the Shruti. Shruti Vipratipanna. What battles are even now delivered by the Indian Pandits and metaphysicians over the meaning of the ancient texts and to what different conclusions they lead. The understanding may well get disgusted and indifferent. Gantasi Nirvedam.
Gantasi.
Gantasi Nirvedam refuse to hear any more texts, new or old, श्रोतावस्य श्रुतिवस्य च
Shrotavyasya shrutasya cha.
श्रुतस्य च, and go into itself to discover the truth in the light of a deeper and inner and direct experience.
Right. Thank you for the suggestion of reading this paragraph also. It was necessary for the completeness of the idea and thought that is there in these two paras. Arunaji, thank you. Yeah. So almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge is a strong, almost a violent censure. Censure means criticism, and repudiation. Repudiation means basically to disown, okay, of the Vedavada. Almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge is a strong, almost a violent censure. So basically, I mean, going back in our connection with the Bhagavad Gita text, we had read till 2.39 basically when we were reading about the Atma Vidya. And in verse number 2.39, basically, he says, Esha te behita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. That so far, what I have told to you was in Sankhya, that is the pure way of knowledge. Now, hear from me in yoga. Okay, that is the verse basically in the Bhagavad Gita till which we had sequentially covered. So he's matlab kind of continuing from there, right? Again, 3.3, the verse from the third chapter, Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yoginam, that we have referred in almost every session of this chapter. So almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge. Again, I may say here, thoda baad mein aata hai wo shloka, but basically, Sankhya Yoga Prithak Balaha Pravadanti na Panditaha. Sankhya and Yoga, that is works and knowledge. Works mean yoga, short form for Karma Yoga, and Sankhya meaning knowledge. So they are separate. This is the saying of children. Okay. Pravadanti na Panditaha. This shloka comes later on in the fifth chapter. And in the essays on the Gita, he says that they are like the two wings of a bird, and basically each of the wings is necessary for the upward flight, right? So just these basic references. Almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge is a strong, almost a violent censure and repudiation of the Vedavada. Like in the last session, basically, the previous paragraph, it covers the Vedavada, which led to the Karma Kanda, which essentially means doing the Vedic sacrifices, doing the Vedic rituals fully in accordance with the Veda Samhita, with the Brahmanas. Later on, a term will come Grihya Sutras, okay? Fully in accordance with them, but with what aim? The aim being heavenly enjoyments as well as enjoyments of this world. So you do the rites, you do the sacrifices for total mastery or enjoyment of this world. And after you leave this body, you have the heavenly enjoyments. Like the Gita is addressed to, somebody from the Kuru clan, that is Arjuna. Okay. So the nature of that clan is described like this by Sri Aurobindo, that they were not very philosophic or metaphysical in their mindset or spiritual that way, those adjectives, that basically description he reserves for the what he calls the Eastern races, people from modern day Bihar, basically Mithila and all that, Janaka, Valmiki. For that particular region, he reserves these adjectives. I'll share the reference, spiritual and all. But Arjuna, from where he is, basically the Kuru clan, it won't be region specific. It depends from person to person and soul to soul. But in general, so they were of the nature ki they are not very philosophic or metaphysical. They will be doing these sacrifices, yagyas, etc., for attaining worldly enjoyments, samrajya, emperorship. Okay, Rajasuya Yagya Yudhishthir ne kiya to get established as the Samrat. So enjoyments of this world, imperialism of those days. So like when somebody pointed to Sri Aurobindo that, in the 20th century, what are these Western nations doing? First Britain and France and, Germany and all these people, Netherlands and all. And then America jumped into the bandwagon, basically, all this imperialism and very, मतलब very blatantly imperialistic and all, and India में ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. And Sri Aurobindo says, but what were the Pandavas doing? They were also imperialistic. पुराने times में you have to read that wonderful book called The Ideal of Human Unity, and how the empires were formed and what is the divine purpose behind the creation of the empires. Very simple, to unite the world. Like the whole world, or almost a very large percentage of it, is united in one language called English, and that is the divine use of the imperialism of that period. Anyway, so to come back, so enjoyment of this world, samrajya, adhipatya, etc., and then thereafter of the swarga, right, of the heavenly worlds, going and joining your ancestors, even they are shown in the TV serials and all like that. So that is what he's talking about, कि वो that Vedavad, ठीक है? And then these two words which come in the verses which come in the second chapter, which hit you very strongly when you read them. कि what is the Gita doing? It is like dismissing Vedavad. Correction comes in the 15th chapter, where he says that I am the creator of the Veda, and I am the knower of the Veda, and I am the creator of the Vedanta, etc. That verse comes in the 15th chapter, around, I think, verse number 15, verse number Vedaischa sarvaihi ahameva vedyu. I am that which is to be known by all the Vedas, and I am the creator of the Vedanta. Vedanta krit Veda videva chaham. I am the knower of the Veda, etc. So then the balance is restored. But here, when you read it, this flowery word which they declare, I'll first say the Sanskrit for the power and effect. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipashchitah vedavadarataah partha nanyadastiti vadinah kamatmanah swargapara janma karma phalapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati. These are the two verses. I'll show them on the screen also if necessary. 2.42 and 2.43. This flowery word which they declare, Yam imam pushpitam vacham. Pushpitam, flowery. Vacham means word. Yam imam means this. Imam is the pronoun for this. This flowery word which they declare, who have not clear discernment. Vipaschitah, I think is the word over there. Yeah, I think maybe Vipaschitah, for those who do not have a clear discernment. Devoted to the creed of the Veda. Vedavadarata. Whose creed is that there is nothing else. Like the previous paragraph, it ends with this sentence, whatever may have been the true and original sense of the Veda. And the original sense of the Veda was both. It was spiritual victory also and attainment of immortality. So this phrase, Amritaste Bhavanti, they became immortal. This is there, I mean, exactly I would not be able to say कि samhita में कहाँ पे है, but this is part of the Vedic literature. Okay, so that goal of spiritual immortality, Tad Vishnoh Paramam Padam, that is the highest seat of Vishnu, and becoming liberated. It speaks of the bandhanas, Tridha Baddho. Tridha Baddho being the mind, vital, and body, right? Chatvari Shringa Trayavasya Pada. We have referred to that verse earlier. So it was there. So it's not that the Veda had the idea only of enjoyment in this world and in the same kind of enjoyment magnified to another level in other worlds. No, it had the idea of spiritual liberation and mukti also, and in fact it had the idea of the divine perfectibility of matter, which Sri Aurobindo in the first chapter of this book, when he mentions the four syntheses, when he speaks of the tantra, he says that tantra's greatness, or tantra's, the greatness about it basically was that divine perfectibility of matter, this idea which was there in the Veda, it had got lost in the interim, and tantra basically restores it. Sri Aurobindo takes it to absolutely, he perfects the idea by even speaking of the total transformation of matter itself by the supramental power. Tissue and cell partook beatitude. Our body's cells must hold the immortal's flame. Things like, lines like these in Savitri. So many are there in that, right? So that original sense was there, but this was the distinction which had long established itself, and with which therefore the Gita had to deal. What is the distinction? The distinction between the Vedavada leading to an Vedavada, basically Karma Kanda, and that karma basically. You can understand it as the word karma. आप अगर mind में रखें, so the Vedic synthesis, the Rigveda Samhita, Vedavada basically, this thing, karma, like this, and the second is the Brahmavada, because of the Upanishads. These are the two syntheses which have preceded the Gita, right? So this was the distinction which had long established itself and with which therefore the Gita has to deal. The distinction of the Vedavada and the Karma Kanda for getting the enjoyments basically, and that of the Brahmavada of the Upanishads for getting the mukti, the liberation. Okay, this is what the Gita has to deal with. Okay, so this flowery word which they declare who have not clear discernment, devoted to the creed of the Veda, whose creed is that there is nothing else. Na anyadasti, na anyadasti, nanyadasti iti. Iti matlab finish, khatam, और कुछ नहीं. Whose creed is that there is nothing else. Souls of desire, कामात्मानः, ठीक है, seekers of paradise, स्वर्गपरा, not matpara. What does the Gita want you to be? Matpara, very clearly. आप वो वर्ड्स को ऐसे अपने दिमाग में छाप लीजिए जो ये सेशन सुन रहे हैं, ठीक है. नॉट स्वर्गपरा और इवन ब्रह्मपरा. ब्रह्मपरा वर्ड गीता में नहीं आता, बट मतपरा. इसी चैप्टर में सेकंड में ये वर्ड आता है मतपरः.
अनमोल भाई,
हाँ.
ब्रह्मपरा वुड मीन वो तैत्तिरीय उपनिषद का प्रजापति वाला, राइट?
नहीं, एक्चुअली ब्रह्म वो नहीं, आप गलत बोल रहे हैं, बिकॉज वो प्रजापति इन दैट इज नॉट द ब्रह्मन. प्रजापति इन दैट इज सिंपली ब्रह्मा.
हाँ, तो ब्रह्मा का ही, ब्रह्मपरा नहीं है वो वाला नहीं.
ब्रह्मापरा नहीं बोला मैंने, ब्रह्मपरा बोला है.
अच्छा अच्छा, तो वो अलग कैसे हुआ?
ब्रह्म, वो बता रहा हूँ. अगेन आप उससे लिंक करके देखेंगे, थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन भी आएगा, बिकॉज इन दैट ब्रह्मन इज द हाईएस्ट, बिकॉज इट्स एन उपनिषद. ठीक है, उपनिषद के अंदर ब्रह्मन इज द हाईएस्ट. इन द गीता, इफ यू सी द 14th चैप्टर लास्ट वर्स, क्लियरली ही सेज ब्रह्मणो ही प्रतिष्ठा हम, ब्रह्म की प्रतिष्ठा मैं हूं. एंड इन द गीता बेसिकली ब्रह्मन is used as a synonym like that for अक्षर पुरुष, ब्राह्मी स्थिति. ठीक है, सो आपको वो ब्राह्मी स्थिति परा भी नहीं होना है कि माय एम इज द ब्राह्मी स्थिति. आपको क्या होना है? मत पराह. यू हैव टू एम फॉर द पुरुषोत्तमा कॉन्शियसनेस. नाउ इज इट क्लियर?
या, थैंक यू.
Anmol bhai, what does mat pramaha mean?
मत परा, मत मीन्स मी, परा मीन्स फॉलोइंग. आप किस चीज के पीछे भाग रहे हैं? परा एक्चुअली गुड यू आस्क्ड. पर लिटरली मीन्स सुप्रीम. ठीक है, परम और परा और पर डिपेंडिंग ऑन द जेंडर विच यू यूज, राइट. तो मत पराह माने रिगार्डिंग मी एज द सुप्रीम. यहां पे जो वर्ड है स्वर्ग परा माने रिगार्डिंग स्वर्ग एज द सुप्रीम और द हाईएस्ट. क्लियर? कांट हियर यू अरोड़ा जी क्लियरली, प्लीज से क्लियरली बोलिए.
I have a small question.
हाँ बोलिए.
Aurobindo wrote essays on Gita as well as Secret of Veda. They were running parallel.
Yes.
He established the Secret of Veda first, and then he wrote this. I don't know.
No, he started writing the Secret of the Veda first. The Secret of the Veda started appearing right from the first this thing of the Arya, the first edition बोलना चाहिए, क्या बोलना चाहिए, the first issue of the Arya. That was in 15th August 1914, whereas the essays on the Gita was started in 1916.
See, I am just trying to correlate, because here he's directly, indirectly hitting at Vedvada, which is ritual, and which has been that generally accepted socially, that Veda is nothing but rituals.
Yeah.
But
wait, nahi, that's what I'm saying. Ki this we are only at the second chapter of the Gita. ठीक है? Later on in the 15th chapter, verse number 15, Krishna will make it clear कि what is the greatness and importance of the Veda. He says सर्वैश्च वेदैश्च सर्वैः अहमेव वेद्यो. वेदैः मतलब तृतीया वो बहुवचन में कि by the Vedas, सर्वैः, by all the Vedas, सर्वैः वेदैः. ठीक है, वेदैश्च सर्वैः अहम एव वेद्यो. सारे वेदों से जो जानने वाली चीज है वो मैं हूं.
Conclusively, he's saying that those who look at Veda only as Vedvad or rituals and hell or heaven, that is a very limited and distorted. That's exactly what he's.
Exactly. Right now, that is what he's saying. That is what the Gita is saying right now. ठीक है, आगे बढ़ूं.
Anmol bhai, just one point. If you see the Veda, as you said, it tries to connect or converge on both the things. That is, enable people who follow the Vedas to
Correct.
have enjoyment
Correct.
of worldly pleasures,
Correct.
and then have pleasures of
the heavenly worlds
heaven,
also.
of heavenly worlds also. And you said the intent was to link it then to the Purushottama as well. So the
Yes.
intent was not just to limit it to these two,
No,
but to
no,
connect.
no, that was not the intent. But because there has been so much time gap between even the Vedic synthesis and the Upanishads, and then between the Upanishads and the Gita, that original sense of the Veda that got kind of lost. So, for example, very Purusha Sukta is a famous Sukta from the Veda that speaks of the Purusha. You know, सहस्त्र शीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्ष सहस्त्रपात. गीता के अंदर इफ यू सी इन द 13th चैप्टर, जो वो सर्वतः पाणिपादम तत् सर्वतः शिशिरो मुखम सर्वतः श्रुति मल्लोके सर्वमावृत्य तिष्ठति, वो बेसिकली इट इज अनदर वर्जन ऑफ द पुरुष सूक्ता फ्रॉम द वेद संहिता ओनली. देयर इज नो डिफरेंस बिटवीन दैट. गेटिंग माय पॉइंट?
Yeah, so you're saying that it basically got interpreted with a priority on worldly pleasures as well as heavenly
Because
pleasures.
see, what happened was, I tell you, it's a very, very important and genuine question. During the Vedic time, the esoteric knowledge was there only with the mystics. It was not there with the common people. Okay? And why it was not with the common people? This question should be, all this is answered in what is called human cycle. So social thought is human cycle, political thought is ideal of human unity. Matlab, these are all masterful books. So the mass of humanity basically was not ready. उनका जो overall level था, intellectual level or spiritual level, it was not up to the, I'm talking about 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, okay, like that.
Right.
So therefore, the knowledge was there with the mystics. Now they were very careful. They passed it on either to their offspring or to their disciple, and it was carried on, very scrupulously for a long time. But obviously, time has its effect. वो cycles रहते हैं. So the original knowledge, it kind of had a tendency to get lost. Same thing is mentioned in the beginning of the 4th chapter of the Gita. कि ये जो मैं तुम्हें योगा दे रहा हूं, it is not something new. It was there originally given to the sun god, by him to Ikshvaku, by him to, sun god to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku. And in the great passage of time, it got lost. So I am basically reinstating that knowledge. So ये होता है. I mean, it happens because of the passage of time, and the knowledge gets lost, or the real meaning of words, it tends to get lost. It happens all the time. So,
Right.
yeah,
Got
okay.
it. Thanks.
Yeah. So this flowery word which they declare, who have not clear discernment, devoted to the creed of the Veda, whose creed is that there is nothing else, souls of desire, seekers of paradise. It gives the fruits of the works of birth. It gives the fruits of the works of birth. Janma karma phala pradam. जन्म लेने के बाद जो आपने कर्म किया, उसका क्या आपको फल मिल रहा है. It gives the fruits of the works of birth. It is multifarious with specialities of rites. We even see today, matlab, if you call a pandit, want to do some puja, he will tell you so many things. You get all this samagri. Nowadays that samagri is there available एक साथ में, but these type of fruits, ये लकड़ी और ये वो सारा, अभी भी उसके अंदर वो element है. It depends कि वो कितना elaborately करता है. All that. So obviously it would have decreased from those times. It is multifarious with specialities of rites. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. So Shri Aurobindo distinguishes between Kriya and Karma. Important to understand. क्रिया होता है राइट वगैरह, रिचुअल वगैरह वैसे, ठीक है, बट वो क्रिया मात्र रह जाता है. व्हेन यू ऑफर इट टू द डिवाइन, देन इट बिकम्स, if you matlab extend the word karma to karma yoga, then it becomes karma. Otherwise वो मात्र क्रिया रह जाता है. Now I'm not sure, to be honest, if Shri Aurobindo has said this or I picked it up from somewhere else, but it was a good matlab distinction that at least it helps you that way, because in the like that. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. It is directed to enjoyment and lordship as its goal. Bhoga Aishwarya Gatim. Gatim माने goal, prati. Okay? Bhogaishwarya Gatim prati. Clear enough? Okay? So almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge, because till 2.39 he has explained it in the terms of knowledge. Sankhya. Esha te bhita Sankhye. Now he is explaining the same thing which he has told, synthesizing it, integrating it with the Karma Yoga. And then in the 3rd chapter onwards, he will start properly dealing with the Karma Yoga and expostulating on it, right? So, yeah, the Gita even seems to go on to attack the Veda itself, which though it has been practically cast aside, yeah, though it has been practically cast aside, is still to Indian sentiment intangible, inviolable, the sacred origin and authority for all its philosophy and religion. Yeah. Seems to go on to attack, he's saying. Because as I'm saying again and again, in 15.15, the necessary correction is made in the thought of the Gita. One should not be led to think that the Gita is attacking the Veda. Not at all. Not at all. Neither the Veda nor the Upanishads. Clearly, there is a verse in the वहां पे वो ब्रह्म सूत्र को रेफर करती है, उपनिषद्स को श्रुति वगैरह करके it refers. So in the 15.15 also Vedanta Krit, I am the creator of the Vedanta. So there is no such, the child revolts against the father. That sort of thing is very childish. Indian philosophy doesn't do it in a, in a unreasonable way. It is only done when the next step in evolution has to be uncovered. Then, the thought is like this. So that is why you find Sri Aurobindo saying that, Shankaracharya made this mistake regarding Mayavada. It was impatient, this, that. But that is just to drive the point home about the incompleteness of the thought as applicable to present times, modern times. Okay. All this needs to be kept in mind very clearly. Okay. The Gita even seems to go on to attack the Veda itself, which though it has been practically cast aside, is still it's a fact that the Veda is not really used for psychological growth. Even today, those who have not read The Secret of the Veda, let's say, they would hardly be knowing anything. In general, the psychological or spiritual meaning of the Veda is not known to people. Most people have not even seen what the Veda looks like. They don't even know the name of the book. It's called Rig Veda Samhita, right? All that basically. So yeah, the action of the three gunas is the subject matter of the Veda, but do thou become free from the triple guna, O Arjuna. Traigunya Vishayah Vedah Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Nirdvandvo Nitya Satvastho Niryoga Kshema Atmaman. That is the full verse, 2.45. इसके पहले बीच में one verse he has not mentioned here, but I'll just say it. भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्ता नाम के प्रसक्त मीन्स सक्ता उसमें धातु है अटैच होना. Okay? तो उसमें आ प्रिफिक्स लगता है, इट बिकम्स आसक्त. प्रसक्त basically means the same thing. Bhoga Aishwarya Prasaktanam. When your consciousness is totally engrossed in enjoyment and lordship. Okay. All this is mentioned as, in a sense, the Asuric qualities in the 16th chapter. When you want to do it at any cost, when you want to trample over your opponents or this kind of thing, and you want it for yourself, and you say that what is the purpose of the world? It is only for enjoyment of desire and etc. etc. All that is called Asuric in the 16th chapter of the Gita very clearly. Okay.
अनमोल भाई यूजुअली 2.42 to 2.44 साथ में लिया जाता है ना ये.
ठीक है, श्री अरविंदो इज नॉट अ यूजुअल कमेंटेटर एज
नहीं जनरली मैं कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि वो ये तीनों रिलेटेड.
दैट्स व्हाई आई एम कवरिंग दिस ना, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम कवरिंग 2.44.
हां,
कहीं मान लो इस टेक्स्ट में आगे रेफर नहीं हो तो जस्ट टू मेक श्योर दैट बोथ द टेक्स्ट एंड द एसेज गेट देयर ड्यू, आई एम डूइंग इट. या भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानाम तया अपहृत चेतसाम. उसके त्वया मीन्स बाय दैट, अपहृत माने अपहरण हो गया. किस चीज का? आपकी चेतना का. इंपॉर्टेंट साइकोलॉजिकल पॉइंट. व्हेन यू आर फोकसिंग टू मच ऑन एंजॉयमेंट एंड लॉर्डशिप, देन द ट्रू कॉन्शियसनेस उसका अपहरण हो जाता है. इट गेट्स लॉस्ट. आप खो जाते हैं उसमें. यू फॉरगेट द ट्रू पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ. You forget the true purpose of life. Mother was asked simple question, worth memorizing, very simple to memorize also. Why are we on earth? Okay. Why are we on earth? Answer: to find the divine who is in each of us and in all things. So when this, obsession with lordship and enjoyment takes over, then the consciousness ka apharan ho gaya, and you forget the true purpose of life. You forget the divine. You forget that the source of everything, any true thing, any true enjoyment, any true power, anything, it is the divine only. You forget it, right? Taya pahrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. थोड़ा डिटेल में भी आगे आएगा इसमें कि दिस काइंड ऑफ अ बुद्धि, व्यवसायत्मिका बेसिकली मीन्स रेजोल्यूट. तो इफ इट इज हैविंग दिस काइंड ऑफ रेजोल्यूशन, समाधौ न विधीयते, विधीयते में द रूट इज दैट ध ओनली, साउंड ध फिक्स होना उसमें. इट विल नॉट गेट इस्टैब्लिश्ड इन समाधि. It will not get established in that perfect silence. Okay, that is what it means. So this was just to make sure कि 2.44 अगर आगे नहीं आता है तो उसको कवर करने के लिए. So what is he saying here? The action of the three gunas. Again, it's like a diktat in the Gita very early on. आप इसको आदेश की तरह मान सकते हैं, भगवान का आदेश की तरह ही मानना चाहिए. निस्त्रय गुण्यो भव अर्जुन. ओ अर्जुना, become निस्त्रय गुण्य. All of us are Arjuna. Arjuna basically means the sattvic mind. मतलब राजसिक था वो वैसे, but he was governed by sattvic principles. The word Arjuna means white, and the white color is for the sattva guna, etc. Basically is a directive to the mind which is sufficiently illumined and awakened, right? Nistraya gunyo bhavarjuna. O Arjuna, be free from the three gunas. The action of the three gunas is the subject matter of the Veda. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Okay. The Vedas in the widest terms. All the Vedas. Yeah. All the Vedas word इसमें कहाँ पे आ रहा है? आएगा मे भी कहीं पे, देख लेंगे. We'll see when it comes. All the Vedas which might well include the Upanishad. अच्छा, what does the word Veda literally mean? What does the word mean? It means knowledge. ठीक है. It comes from the vid dhatu, which has 5 meanings. One is to know, one is to exist, जिससे आता है vidyate. That word comes in the Gita. But when you say the word Veda, then the meaning know of the dhatu is taken with dhatu hai. Veda means simply knowledge. Yeah.
When we say Vidwan.
Vidwan, correct. Vidwan mein vat is the suffix. So vidvat is the pratipadik, the stem, and the prathama vibhakti of vidvat is vidwan. He who is having vid. So, like Atmavan, jiske paas Atma hai, Dhanavan, Bhagavan. Bhaga means the capacity of enjoyment. Bhaga basically means the capacity. This is one of the derivations of the word Bhagavan. Bhaga is one of the Vedic deities. It is related to Ananda, and it basically means your capacity to take delight in everything. So Bhagavan is that which can take delight in everything. That is one of the literal meanings of the word Bhagavan. Right, Vidwan. Thank you, Sarita.
अनमोल भाई,
हाँ.
सो हम ये कह सकते हैं इन साइकोलॉजिकल टर्म्स, इन ये लोग जो बोलते हैं इंट्रोवर्ट एंड एक्सट्रोवर्ट, अंतर्मुखी बहिर्मुखी, सो ये जो है अर्जुना टाइप्स, दे वर ऑल बहिर्मुखी.
या बेसिकली,
एंड
अगर वो बहिर्मुखी नहीं होता तो ही वुड नॉट बेसिकली बहिर्मुखी. हाँ, ही इज बेसिकली एक क्षत्रिय, एंड ही इज नॉट, जो शिवानंद ने बोला ना, ही इज नॉट द थिंकर टाइप.
या और जो अंतर्मुखी है, जो जिन्होंने प्रिजर्व करके रखा नॉलेज, वो ये हम वो वेद बात.
या दैट इज द, हाँ,
या ओके,
ब्राह्मण लाइनेज, ऋषि लाइनेज और द राजर्षि लाइनेज.
Anmol, this distinction between Vedvad and the
Brahmavad.
teachings of the Gita, Brahmavad, the fact that he says you have to establish.
एक सेकंड योगेश भाई, teaching of the Gita is not Brahmavad. If you want to say it that way, the teaching of the Gita is Purushottamavad. तो यहाँ पे अभी जो बात हो रही है, that is the teaching of the Veda, Vedavada, and the teaching of the Upanishads, which is the Brahmavad.
Upanishad.
Now you can.
Correct. So I'm saying the three gunas and the fact that you just now said
Yeah.
that you have to establish,
Yeah.
if you're looking at pleasures of which is what Veda gives you, the Karma Kanda,
Yeah.
it gives you the capability. But the moment it talks about heavenly pleasures, there heaven is above the three gunas, right?
No, it is not. No, it is not.
Heaven is also the three.
Verse
three
number
of the-
40, verse number 40 in the 18th chapter, very, very clearly and amazingly says, Na tadasti prithivyaam va divideveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jair muktam yadevi syat trivir gunaihi. I'll show the verse, otherwise उसका translation में ऐसे करूंगा तो गलत भी हो सकता है. It very basically clearly says कि right up till the, even in the deva, divi, div means heaven, divi means in heaven. Okay, this is the verse. Na tadasti prithivyaam va divi deveshu va punaha सत्वम प्रकृति जैर मुक्तम यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर गुणैहि. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड कमिंग लाइट इन द लास्ट चैप्टर ऑफ द गीता. तो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वर्स. वो ऐसे ही गीता में कुछ भी कैजुअल नहीं है. आई मीन, आई डोंट थिंक देयर इज एनीथिंग, कैन नॉट बी एक्चुअली, इट्स नॉट रिटन फ्रॉम अ, इट्स रिटन फ्रॉम अ वेरी हाई कॉन्शियसनेस. देयर इज नॉट एन एंटिटी आइदर ऑन द अर्थ और अगेन इन हेवन अमंग द गॉड्स. आ गया ना आपका हेवन, दैट इज नॉट सब्जेक्ट टू द वर्किंग्स ऑफ दीज थ्री गुनास बोर्न ऑफ नेचर.
Beautiful.
And
That
not only
explains it.
heaven, not only heaven, even the highest gods known to Hindu pantheon, that way, Puranic pantheon, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they are fitted into the gunas. So Shiva is called tamasic because he destroys what needs to be destroyed in order to transform it and give it another form. Fine. Similarly, Vishnu is called sattvic because he preserves the balance. Brahma is called rajasic because he creates. This is there more than once in the essays on the Gita.
Right. So it explains that the gunas are all the way up to heaven, and therefore
Even
Vedas.
I am
It
saying
makes
even
sense.
above the यहाँ पे तो दिव्य लिखा है ना. So we have been
Right.
constantly referring to the Taittiriya Upanishad में जो 11 levels हैं. So दिव्य basically in the Taittiriya वाला जो 11 levels था, in that it means इंद्र. Okay. उसके बाद फिर बृहस्पति है. बृहस्पति के ऊपर प्रजापति है. So प्रजापति या जो ब्रह्मा है, that is not part of दिव्य. वो दिव्य में नहीं है. ठीक है. दिव्य में तो केवल इंद्र वगैरह होंगे. तो this verse is mentioning न तदस्ति पृथिव्याम वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः up till दिव्य. और अगेन एक्चुअली इट डिपेंड्स कि आप दिव को कैसे ले रहे हैं, बट जनरली दिव इज टेकन टू बी हेवन. ठीक है. स्वर्ग जिसको
Right.
बोलते हैं नॉर्मल भाषा में. बट इवन उसके बियॉन्ड की में अगर आप जाएं, इवन जो प्रजापति तक का जो लेवल है ना, प्रजापति इज ऑल्सो रजोगुणी. ही इज बाउंड टू
Got it.
क्रिएट. ही कैनॉट हेल्प हिमसेल्फ फॉर क्रिएटिंग. ही इज नॉट फ्री नॉट टू क्रिएट. इज दिस क्लियर?
Right. Right.
Ah,
Thanks.
he is not free not to create. The true freedom comes only with the prapti of the Brahman, the 11th and final level in the Taittiriya. Okay? Yeah. Okay. अब बहुत पावरफुल वर्सेस में आने वाला है. क्या बोलूं मतलब.
Anmol, their
हाँ.
gods must at least not be tamasic and rajasic. At least they must have
Karita, you have to understand the sense. You have to understand the sense. If we are tamasic, ठीक है, we will lead to a bad kind of destruction, destructive to ourselves and destructive to the people and world around us. When you say Shiva is tamasic, he is not tamasic in that sense. He is destroying. But what does Shiva destroy? He destroys what is outlived its usefulness, what is blocking the forward evolution, that he destroys. Also, Mother has called Shiva the Lord of Transformation. क्या मतलब होता है ट्रांसफॉर्म वर्ड का? फॉर्म मतलब रूप, ट्रांस मतलब across. So basically he changes the form. But for that change of form, the destruction of the previous form is necessary. You understand?
So it is a creative destruction.
Yes, it is a transformative destruction.
Okay.
Savitri mein, for example, there is a line, a giant dance of Shiva tore the past. This line is there, the house of the spirit and the new creation, book 3 canto 4. वो new creation की बात कर रहे हैं उसमें. But what does he say? शिवा के बारे में, a giant dance of Shiva tore the past. And those जो Aurobindonian scholars हैं शिवाबंदो के फील्ड के, they use it to refer to the two world wars. कि इट वॉज बाय दीज टू वर्ल्ड वॉर्स की जो वेस्टर्न सिविलाइजेशन का हेजेमनी था, वो सारा एक झटके में खत्म हुआ. अभी पूरी तरह खत्म नहीं हुआ है. द बैलेंस ऑफ पावर इज, बट इट्स गेटिंग मोर बैलेंस बेसिकली. बट यू नो, एंड नॉट टू जस्ट कॉल द वेस्ट, नॉट टू पॉइंट आउट द वेस्ट, राइट, जिसको मदर ओल्ड वर्ल्ड बोलती हैं. 29 फरवरी 1956 के पहले इट इज द ओल्ड वर्ल्ड. सो अ जायंट डांस ऑफ शिवा टोर द पास्ट. उसने उसको पूरा फाड़ के फेंक दिया एक सेंस में. You understand? In that sense, it has to be understood.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. I mean, I can elaborate further on this, but then that is not the subject we are discussing right now. Yeah. All the Vedas, which might well include the Upanishads also, and seems to include them, for the general term Shruti is used later on. Shruti basically means Upanishad. It's a synonym for Upanishads. Okay. So yeah, the Veda मैंने बताया, the word Veda means knowledge. And Upanishad का तो मतलब ही ज्ञान कांड होता है. उपनिषद की सम बुक्स में यू विल फाइंड कि इट्स कॉल्ड ज्ञान कांड, राइट. वेद का जो ज्ञान कांड है उसको उपनिषद बोल देते हैं. सो लाइक दैट. सो द वेदास इन द वाइडेस्ट टर्म्स, ऑल द वेदास एक्सेट्रा, आर डिक्लेयर्ड टू बी अननेसेसरी फॉर द मैन हु फॉलोज. एक्चुअली आई मीन जो प्रीवियस वाला वर्स था ना, निस्त्रय गुण्यो भवार्जुन. सो व्हेन यू रीड दैट, टेक इट एज द आदेश ऑफ द कृष्णा, ऑफ द श्री भगवान to you, the human being, represented in the Gita as Arjuna. And where is that Krishna dwelling? That Krishna is dwelling within you. Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam hriddeshe Arjuna tishtati. 18.61. Take it as the adesh of the immanent divine within you that you have to be free from the three gunas. बिल्कुल साफ शब्दों में बोल रहा है, निस्त्रय गुण्यो भवार्जुना. इस तरह के आदेश गीता में आते हैं. 6th chapter में verse number 46 he will say, तस्मात् योगी भवार्जुन, become a yogi. कोई उसमें एम्बिग्विटी नहीं है. That's the greatness of the Gita. It gives you so much clarity. There has not been a person in the history of humanity जिसने गीता पढ़ी हो और उसको पढ़ने के बाद उसको क्लैरिटी या अपने लाइफ के प्रॉब्लम्स का सोल्यूशन ना मिला. Everybody says this about the Gita. Okay? Anyway, so I needed to say it regarding that verse. Now I continue. Again, so much power in one session, but क्या करें? इसमें है ऐसा.
Can you please later on give us the verses in which the Adesh is there?
Okay, मतलब I'll have to find out. Prima facie मेरे माइंड में अभी ये दो आए थे इस तरह से, और भी है. 18.65 सरिता 18.65 मन मना भव. जहां पे भी भव आएगा ना, लोट लकार का वो वाला रूप जो है सेकंड पर्सन वाला, भव मतलब बनो बनो बनो, या कुरु. ठीक है, योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि, बीइंग एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन योगा, डू कर्म. ठीक है, इस तरह से. तो इस तरह के आदेश गीता में कुरु हुआ या भव हुआ, वहां पे आएगा.
बोल भाई.
हाँ भाई. अरोड़ा जी, सॉरी, बोलिए.
Interesting question or point which she has made.
हाँ.
Can't we list all of those part shlokas?
Can we not list?
All those shlokas, or
I'll do that. It's very simple. I have the Sanskrit text with me. I'll go through that and search for Bhava and Kuru and paste them here.
Yes. It should be
Man mana bhava mat bhakto.
Yes.
Madhyaji mam namaskuru. Man mana bhava. Be my-minded. इसी मन मना का जो मैंने बोला ना, मत परह, मेरे को सुप्रीम मान यार, किसी और को सुप्रीम मत मान. That is what the Krishna is saying in the Gita.
So that will be the command.
Yeah, that is the command. Okay? अब अच्छा, ये वर्ड्स करना है, बहुत पावरफुल है. जग्गी वासुदेव कोट्स थे, मैंने सुना था उसके मुंह से, तो I'll say in what context and all he said this. पहले इसका संस्कृत. Oh my God, it's just too powerful. यावानर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके तावान सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः. 2.46 of the Gita. यावान अर्थ, जितना अर्थ, उदपाने, उदपाना मीन्स अ पॉन्ड. ठीक है, यावान अर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः, चारों तरफ. ठीक है, सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके, संप्लुतोदके मतलब पानी पानी हो, बाढ़ आ गई है. ठीक है, संप्लुतोदके. उदक मीन्स वाटर, उदक मीन्स वाटर. ओके, यावान अर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके. ओके, as much use as there is in a pond when there is flood all around you, tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. That much use is there in the Vedas or any written body of knowledge when, for somebody who has known the Brahman, brahmanasya vijanatah. Right? I think the translation used here is taken directly from the essays on the Gita. Yeah, exactly. So we'll read it from here. It's the same thing. As much use as there is in well with water in flood on every side. यहाँ well है. At other places I have read pond, maybe in the Ramakrishna by Swarupananda, Gita by Swarupananda. As much use as there is in well, udapane, sarvatah samplutodake, with water in flood on every side. So much is there in all the Vedas for the Brahmin who has the knowledge. For the Brahmana. Brahmana का मतलब होता है जिसने ब्रह्म को जान लिया हो. That is what the word Brahmana means. That's why they were called Devata. Right? So we'll go back to the text of the essays. Yeah. We'll understand what he's saying. It's a very staggering shloka. You're like, कोई book पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है क्या फिर? Are all scriptures useless? Yes, they are. For the Brahman knower. And he will explain it beautifully. ठीक है? यावान अर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके तावान सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः. The ring of this in the voice of the Lord himself, God himself, should be felt in our consciousness. That is the true, utility of reading the Gita. Yeah, that is why I like थोड़ा बहुत संस्कृत का मैं बोलता हूँ या वेडनेसडे को से. As much use as there is in a well with water on flood every side, in flood on every side, so much is there in all the Vedas for the Brahmin who has the knowledge. Nay, the so much use मतलब उतना तो use बोला. Nay, the scriptures are even a stumbling block for the letter of the word, perhaps because of its conflict of texts and its various and mutually dissentient matlab divergent, okay, interpretation bewilders the understanding. which can only find certainty and concentration by the light within. Like you have this sentence, maybe Bible का होगा, the spirit saveth and the word killeth, कुछ ऐसा है. If you stick just to the word, then that will kill you. But if you stick to the spirit, then that will be the savior. It is the spirit that saveth. कुछ ऐसा है. I don't know the Bible. I've never read it. Nay, the scriptures are even a stumbling block for the letter of the word. उसके शब्द से चिपक जाना. Perhaps because of its conflict of texts and its various and mutually dissentient interpretations bewilders the understanding, which can only find certainty and concentration by the light within. I'll give the necessary reference from the synthesis also. Remind me if I forget. ठीक है? When thy intelligence shall cross beyond the wall of delusion, then shalt thou become indifferent to scripture heard or that which thou hast yet to hear. गंतासी निर्वेदम. निर्वेदम मतलब वेद के बियॉन्ड जाना. निर मतलब अलग होना. गंतासी मतलब गोइंग टुवर्ड्स इट. गंता असी, वो सेकंड पर्सन में तू जाएगा, वही तत्वमसी वाला असी. गंतासी निर्वेदम श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. When thy intelligence which is bewildered by the श्रुति, श्रुति विप्रतिपन्ना. इसमें मुझे धातु पकड़ में नहीं आ रहा है. मे बी इफ आई उसका वर्स नंबर भी वहां पे यहाँ नहीं आ रहा है. कौन सा 2.53 है. 1 सेकेंड. श्रुति विप्रतिपन्ना 2.53. 1 सेकेंड. The reference in the synthesis is basically where he says that the scripture which you get is a help. It's a great aid. But the real scripture, the real shastra, which everybody has to follow in the integral yoga, or integral yoga, all life is yoga, and integral yoga कह के उसको limit नहीं करना चाहिए. But the real scripture, the real Veda that we have to follow is the one that is within our heart. In the brain of India, वो कहते हैं ना, that Gyata within you. That is the real Guru, the Supreme Guru. And the real Veda comes from him. That is what it means, right? So, Vipratipanna, 1 second. इसका root नहीं पकड़ में आया था क्या? Past participle adjective, Shruti Vipratipanna, bewildered by the Vedic words which are heard or perceived. ठीक है. Shruti means the Veda. Vipratipanna meaning would be meaning this. I'm sorry, इसका root अभी नहीं आ रहा है. अगर आएगा कभी बाद में तो I'll share, right? When the intelligence shall stand unmoving and stable in samadhi, then shalt thou attain to yoga. 2.52 and 2.53. For the sake of completeness also, we'll just say the whole words. Yada te moha kalilam बुद्धिर व्यतितरिष्यति. जब आपकी बुद्धि जो मोह कलिलम, मोह मीन्स डिल्यूजन, कलिल मीन्स द कलुष उसमें जो लगा हुआ है, द ब्लैकनेस लिटरली, ठीक है, कालापन. यदा ते मोह कलिलम बुद्धि व्यतितरिष्यति, जब तुम्हारी बुद्धि इसके पार निकल जाएगी, मोह कलिलम के, ठीक है. तदा गंतासी निर्वेदम श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. श्रुति विप्रतिपन्नाते यदा स्थास्यति निश्चला, निश्चला वही स्टेबल, ठीक है. समाधावचला बुद्धि, अचला इज एक्चुअली अनमूविंग, स्टेबल. निश्चला का भी सिमिलरली कोई वर्ड होगा यहाँ पे. समाधौ अचला बुद्धि तदा योगम अवाप्स्यसि, देन शैल्ट thou attain to yoga. Yeah. When thy intelligence which shall cross beyond the wall of delusion, then shalt thou become indifferent to scripture heard or that which thou hast yet to hear. गंतासी निर्वेदम श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. हाँ, श्रुत माने जो सुन लिया है, श्रोतव्य माने जो सुनना है, ठीक है. When the intelligence is bewildered by the Shruti, Shruti विप्रतिपन्न है. Bewildered why? There is nothing wrong with the Shruti as such, except the fact that Shruti के अंदर वो idea पूरी तरह develop नहीं है, the full idea of the Purushottama. But the interpretation, or you don't get the right teacher, or you're getting too many texts and therefore you are confused. What is the Veda saying? What is the Upanishad saying? That way. Okay. Shall stand.
अनमोल भाई ये तो होता ही है, देखिए ना अभी भी ये हमारा इतना वास्ट है कि आदमी पागल हो जाएगा कि छोड़ दो.
इसीलिए वन प्रैक्टिकल पॉइंट, आप जो भी स्टडी कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, फॉर गेटिंग क्लैरिटी दिस दैट फाइन, बट एक शास्त्र पकड़ के चलना चाहिए, जो भी आपका शास्त्र हो. जैसे इंटेग्रल योगा में द मोस्ट कॉमन शास्त्र दैट वे इज दैट स्मॉल बुक कॉल्ड द मदर. उसको लोग लिटरली फॉलो करते हैं. इन द प्रीवियस जनरेशंस एंड ऑल दे यूज्ड टू हैव, सम ऑफ देम यूज्ड टू हैव द होल बुक बाय हार्ट, because that was their thing for following in day-to-day life, for moving towards the mother's consciousness, towards the divine consciousness.
Sorry,
if it is the Gita, sorry,
what is the name you said?
The Mother, that small book called The Mother.
Achha.
हाँ. You have not seen the book, Sarita?
No.
Oh, strange. मेरे अभी कमरे में नहीं है, otherwise I would have shown.
The
I'll
Gita
show
of
it.
the Sri Aurobindo.
Yeah, it's called. I'll click a photo and send it. It's like one of the, I mean, again, thoda sa wo, but mother used to send that book all the way even to America to disciples who were living there. That is how important the book was. Even not was, it is. It is, I mean, when exactly Dhaval Bhai ne bola. When I had come first to Pondicherry, I was carrying that book. I asked, what is it? Matlab, is it the right book or not? He said, oh, this is the Gita of Sri Aurobindo's Yoga, like that. My point is, आपको किसी एक चीज को पकड़ करके you have to follow it with full faith. ये बुक वो बुक और फिर कंफ्यूज हो रहे हैं कि किसको फॉलो करें. डोंट डू दैट.
It is
फॉलो
the
वन थिंग
smallest,
विद फुल फेथ.
it is the smallest and perhaps the simplest of all the works.
एग्जैक्टली. एंड इट इज सो प्रोफाउंड. मतलब एक एक सेंटेंस उसका, इट विल लिटरली फॉल लाइक अ बॉम्ब ऑन आवर इग्नोरेंस. इट इज दैट पावरफुल. ओके. इट इज इवन देयर इन मदर्स वॉइस फुल्ली. आई विल शेयर ऑल दीज लिंक्स ओवर ऑन द ग्रुप. ठीक है. आई विल जस्ट फिनिश पैराग्राफ.
What is the difference in Shruti and Shruti?
There is no difference. वो स्पेलिंग का फर्क है. श्रुति इज द प्रॉपर, श्रुति इज द करेक्ट संस्कृत प्रोनाउंसिएशन. श्रुति मतलब सुना हुआ, श्रवण.
Okay.
हाँ?
अच्छा, Shruti and Shruti are the same. Okay.
श्रुति कुछ है ही नहीं. देयर इज नो सच थिंग एज श्रुति. इट इज श्रुति.
नहीं, यहाँ लिखा था इसलिए.
कहाँ पे लिखा है? अच्छा अच्छा, जैसे श्री अरविंदो में दे SRI, they don't say SHRI. Same thing.
Okay.
You don't say Sri Aurobindo. I have heard one or two people saying it. Karan Singh, Dr. Karan Singh says Sri Aurobindo. I find it very odd. जब मदर ने श्री अरविंदो बोला हुआ है तो आपको क्या जरूरत है अपना इतना दिमाग लगाने की, वैसे बोलने की. Anyway, so it is Shri. Okay. When thy intelligence which is bewildered by the Shruti, Shruti Vipratipanna, shall stand unmoving and stable in Samadhi, then shalt thou attain to yoga. Okay. So offensive is all this to conventional religious sentiment. Yeah. कि ये क्या करा, गीता ने तो बिल्कुल श्रुति को भी और वेद को भी, उपनिषद वेद दोनों को एक झटके में साफ कर दिया बिल्कुल, लाइक दैट. सो ऑफेंसिव इज ऑल दिस टू कन्वेंशनल रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट दैट अटेम्प्ट्स आर नेचुरली मेड by the convenient and indispensable human faculty of text twisting to put a different sense on some of these verses. Maybe Sri Aurobindo saw it being done by some commentators, but the meaning is plain. The word here is used as plain. The meaning is plain and hangs together from beginning to end.
Baba re Baba.
Ah, exactly. This is Sri Aurobindo in a sense. Real Sri Aurobindo क्या है उसके लिए तो पूरा.
Anmol,
Yeah.
I have to say something here.
बोलिए.
जैसे आपने अभी बोला कि एक ही उसको सुनो and you make, that is very good,
Yeah.
but ये भी तो होता है ना, to clarity, to make your mind clear. You don't mind
Yeah,
hearing other
that's
people,
exactly.
and you can form your own opinion. As मैंने कहाँ सुना था, and it was very, it just, what you call, got embedded in my mind कि every person should have his or her own religion,
Yeah.
way of thinking,
Vivekananda. This is
your
Vivekananda's
spirituality.
quotation. This is Vivekananda saying every man
Huh.
must have his own religion.
Own religion. This only happens when you are listening and you're forming your own, like आपको तुम्हारा
Absolutely.
दिमाग चलता रहता है.
Absolutely.
You have your
Totally agree
own.
with you. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. No, but what I am saying is very simple. Book वगैरह का भी नहीं. Whatever you are following, as a shastra or as a guiding principle in life to evolve your consciousness, आप उस चीज पे stick करके रहो until you find something greater. ट्राई मतलब कि आपके माइंड में बहुत ज्यादा कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग ये नहीं आए कि मैं इस शास्त्र को फॉलो करूं कि उस शास्त्र को फॉलो करूं. जो भी
No,
शास्त्र आप
not at
फॉलो
all.
कर रहे हो, स्टिक टू दैट. दैट इज ऑल आई एम सेइंग.
अब जैसे I'm listening to you, I always listen to you, and like and I have some little knowledge of my own Granth also,
Yes.
and so, but then I form my own opinion.
Exactly.
I just form my own opinion and I just
Exactly.
go by it. I
That is
question
the
myself, and then I'm, trying to get answers to my questions, right or wrong. I don't know, but yes, I do. And
correct.
I do it that way. I don't know.
Absolutely. That's what you are doing essentially. You are uncovering that knower within you, that Veda within you. When you do that introspection and contemplation, and soul searching and going deep into the scripture, deep study, etc., slowly by this process.
No deep study, Anmol.
Acha. Acha, okay, okay, okay,
Just by little experiences,
okay,
just by
okay.
little things in life, you know.
But still, I mean, that leads up to that knower within,
But
that
yes,
Veda within.
whatever I listen, it has an impact somewhere, you
Yes,
know, in
obviously.
my consciousness, and it helps me solve my other questions that I
Ji,
keep
ji,
popping.
ji.
Okay,
Anmol
thank you. I
bhai,
would take now.
Yes.
the most powerful thing that you read in this paragraph is just these three words: unmoving and stable in samadhi.
Hmm.
In this sentence, he's saying that at the all of the books and all the scriptures and every reading
Hmm.
is relating to make you experience, come to this unmoving and being stable in samadhi.
Hmm.
There is that stillness and oneness which is there. It was there when this call began, it's there
Yeah.
now, it'll
Yeah.
always be.
Yeah.
How close are you to engaging, touching, experiencing, and stabilizing and unmoving, being stabilized in that? That is what he's saying, that all these other things, etc., etc., are taking you to this.
Absolutely.
But the experience of being unmoving and stable in samadhi is the experience of the Brahman, which is always there. It was there before the
Which is
call began. It's
always
there while
there,
we speak. It will be
which
there
is, yeah,
forever.
which is always there. That is like the foundation and bedrock of the entire cosmic activity, right? And without even our knowledge, it is that unmoving and perfectly stable thing which is supporting all our activities. Okay? The word for that in the Gita is, I think, bharta, support karna. Okay? But you have to become consciously aware of it, and you have to unite your consciousness with that Brahman. What the Gita says, Brahma Bhuta 5.24 में. ठीक है. So अभी गीता उस डायरेक्शन में बिल्ड कर रही है, and by the time this chapter, second chapter of the Gita ends, if you follow it rigorously and sincerely, it will establish you in what the Gita calls the ब्राह्मी स्थिति. आप उस अनमूविंग एंड स्टेबिलिटी के अंदर परमानेंटली फिक्स हो जाएंगे. यू विल हैव द ब्रह्मन रियलाइजेशन. दैट हैज टू बी अंडरस्टूड कि गीता का एम ये है. The Gita's aim is to make you get fixed in the realization of the Brahman to become the Brahman. ब्रह्मविद ब्रह्मैव भवति. जो ब्रह्म को जान लेता है वो ब्रह्म ही बन जाता है. ठीक है.
So
Beautiful,
Anmol by
beautiful.
2.53, because it follows 2.52, it directly says कि समाधि is the ultimate goal. ये सब पढ़ाई बढ़ाई छोड़ दो in that sense.
हाँ.
है ना?
Correct.
And the samadhi in this context of this chapter,
पढ़ाई बढ़ाई छोड़ दो नहीं, but basically
मतलब
avoid the bewilderment caused by
हाँ
too much.
confusion ये करूँ वो करूँ basically. But samadhi in this chapter as it stands, the meaning currently is Brahmi Sthiti, right?
Yeah. It is leading up to that.
Yeah, but not beyond that, right? This is
No,
just
no.
up in this
समाधि का
context.
मतलब, see the word समाधि,
Samadhi, right? Totally.
सम मतलब इक्वल वाला, उसमें वो होगा एलिमेंट. धी मतलब वही आपका जो इंटेलिजेंस है. So that intelligence of yours, that mental consciousness is fixed in that samata. And what is samata? Nirdosham hi samam brahma. The Brahman is the real samam. Samatvam yoga uchyate 2.48 में. ठीक है. So when that dhi is fixed in that sama, that Brahman, then you have the samadhi.
Correct. But it is not talking about Purushottama here.
No,
Clear.
not yet.
Okay.
पुरुषोत्तमा के लिए केवल इस चैप्टर में मत पर करके एक वर्स आएगा 2.60 में. मत परह, दैट इज द ओनली रेफरेंस जो मतलब वैसे है मत परह नाम से. युक्त आसीत मत परह. युक्त माने यूनाइटेड, आसीत मतलब बैठा, कि यूनाइटेड लाइक दिस एंड सीटेड लाइक दिस इन यूनियन रिगार्डिंग मी एज द सुप्रीम. तो वो मत परह जितना मैंने पढ़ा है समझा है, दैट इज द ओनली इनडायरेक्ट रेफरेंस टू द सुप्रीम हुड इन द सेकंड चैप्टर.
Okay, thank you. This is clear.
2.60 में मत पर. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just finish this paragraph 9-11 already. So offensive is all this. Meaning has to it. It is confirmed and emphasized by a subsequent passage in which the knowledge of the knower is described as passing beyond the range of Veda and Upanishad. Shabda Brahmati Vartate. Shabda Brahma Ati Vartate. 6.44. या पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्द ब्रह्माति वर्तते. दिस इज द वर्स. या पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्द ब्रह्माति वर्तते. उसका अतिवर्तते हो जाता है किस चीज का, शब्द ब्रह्म का। एंड सो फार मतलब इट इज द वेदा एंड द उपनिषद विच इज बीइंग कॉल्ड शब्द ब्रह्म, द ब्रह्मन इन द फॉर्म ऑफ द वर्ड। ब्रह्म ने शब्द रूप ले लिया है। उसका मतलब क्या हुआ, जब आप उस शब्द पे चिंतन करेंगे, ध्यान करेंगे, उसको रिपीट करेंगे, आवृत्ति करेंगे उसकी अपनी चेतना में, तो वही शब्द आपको ब्रह्म में जाकर के स्थापित कर देगा। This is the rationale behind the repetition of the Rig Veda Samhita Suktas, or behind the repetition of the Upanishad mantras. At least with the Upanishad mantras, I have done it. Matlab, they are very, very powerful. If you simply memorize one verse from one of the major Upanishads, of course, it should have a meaning for you. You should be able to relate to it. But जब आप उसको भाव के साथ simply you remember that verse, पूरा झंझना देगी आपको. It is so powerful. The tendency towards going towards that Brahman will start coming in you. It's not normal. I don't need to say it. It's very, very powerful. Yeah.
ये 6.44 है. ओके,
ये 6.44 है. आई न्यू कि मतलब ये पैराग्राफ से ज्यादा कवर नहीं हो पाएगा, बट वो सेकंड वाला पढ़ना जरूरी था फॉर द सेक ऑफ कंप्लीटनेस. तो विल टेक दैट अप नेक्स्ट टाइम. ठीक है. इसमें एनी क्वेश्चंस? आई एम आल्सो थिंकिंग अगर कोई थ्रेड खुला रह गया हो. हाँ, निश्चला इज अनमूविंग, अचला इज स्टेबल. Nischala is unmoving, Achala is stable. That is in 2.53. Yeah. Yeah. इसके अलावा और क्या है इसमें? See again, the Adesha Nistraya Gunyo Bhavarjuna. Go beyond the 3 gunas, O Arjuna. ठीक है. Again, okay, somebody does not like to read so much. No problem. All knowledge is within you. Yavan artha udapane, Jaggi Vasudev ka maine bola tha, I didn't mention it. So he quotes the Gita. He says ki I got the chance to study Sanskrit when I was 11 years old, but I did not do it because all the knowledge was coming from within, etc. And then he says ki there is a verse somewhere, where it says that for the one who knows, the scriptures are of as much value as, the well is value to you when there is flood around you. That's a wonderful thing. But you have to have, he must be having that realization. I mean, I have done his course, so I do feel that he has that yogic realization in him. So, उस चीज में. But again, if you don't have, it's very easy to say it कि आपने वो अच्छी बात है. लेकिन if you have to make yourself understood to people, the knowledge of the Shastra is also necessary. मैं उनसे कंपेयर करके वैसे करके नहीं बोल रहा या रेफर करके वैसे, but yeah. So, yavan artha udapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. This can, matlab, those who do not like to read too much, okay? This is a greatly freeing verse. Even if you just follow, if you're a sincere person, truthful person, you realize that through that bhakti, even if you realize that, matlab wo jo isko bolte hain, there is a word for this. The Advaitins have this word. Shastra Vasana. Shastra Vasana.
Oh,
You get too much attached just to the scriptures. आप केवल यही अपने आप को बोस्ट करने लगोगे, दूसरों को बोस्ट करने लगोगे कि मैंने ये पढ़ रखा है, मैंने वो पढ़ रखा है, मैंने वो पढ़ रखा है, मैंने वो पढ़ रखा है. What have you realized? It's more important to realize. Again, मैं थोड़ा सा डाइवर्ज हो रहा है. To read is obviously good. We are reading the Gita ourselves.
नहीं, being practical is what is more important ना अनमोल भाई. Practical में ही करना है ये सब चीज. क्या ये तो theory.
And again, the most important point being कि आप कोई भी book पढ़ लो, ultimately it is that eternal Veda within you and that eternal knower within you in whom you have to get established. It is that eternal Veda within, वो book पढ़नी है. That is the real book which has to be read. पोथी पढ़ पर पंडित भयो न कोई, 2.5 अक्षर प्रेम के पढ़े से पंडित होए. Exactly. It's a very profound, very profound thing.
It is.
When you really have that, and prema, I'm learning recently only, the word prem actually, it's applicable only to divine love. The word prem is not applicable to human love. वो उसका मतलब उसका distortion हो रहा है. If the word prema is being used for any kind of human love, it means love directed towards a divine personality. Right? Yeah.
Anmol bhai, this last line, I'll read it again. It is confirmed and emphasized by a subsequent passage. So first part, I wanted to ask you, so here he's referring to a subsequent passage that will come up in the essays, where he's saying that it is confirmed
in the Gita. It will come in the essays also, maybe.
Correct. So in a subsequent passage, and in which his focus is in which the knowledge of the knower is described. Right. So here, when we are talking about the knowledge of a knower, this is the knowledge of a realized one.
Yes.
Here he's emphasizing that the realized one who is established in Brahman, right? Here he's the knower. His point of saying who is the knower is the point that he had raised, who is unmoving and stable in Samadhi, right?
Yes.
The
Correct.
knower, when he's saying of which the knowledge of the knower is described, the knower here is somebody who's standing unmoving and stable in Samadhi, right? So he's saying that is something that is beyond the range of Veda and Upanishad. So
Exactly.
he's saying that this knower,
See,
a person who's got the experience,
yes,
is
yes.
what he's kind of, this whole
Again,
paragraph
I'll
is
remind you. Yeah, correct.
right.
Correct. I'll remind you of this sutra from the Upanishad. Okay, Taittiriya se hai. Satyam jnanam anantam brahma. Okay, knowledge is infinite by definition. Satyam, okay, you call it jnanam, anantam brahma. Knowledge or truth or Brahma is infinite by definition. If you have knowledge, it's an explosion of infinity. How can you then limit into some scripture? Shabda Brahma, impossible. Simple.
Beautiful.
That's why, the Upanishads are so profound. Log marte hain Upanishad pe isliye. Just 4 words and they'll just change your entire life and perspective. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma.
वो भी एक श्लोक है ना, लिखति यदि गृहीत्वा शारदा सर्व कालम तदपि तव गुणानाम ईश पारम नयाति.
मीनिंग बताइए मेरे को, मैंने श्लोक पहले सुना नहीं है भैया.
नहीं, यदि शारदा भी लिखने लगे ईश्वर के गुणों का, तो तदपि तव गुणानाम ईश पारम नयाति, उसका पार ही नहीं आएगा. लिखति यदि गृहीत्वा शारदा सर्व कालम.
बिकॉज द डिवाइन बाय डेफिनेशन, मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूं, जैसे आप फिजिक्स पढ़ते हैं, मैथ्स पढ़ते हैं, केमिस्ट्री पढ़ते हैं, न्यूटन्स लॉज, दिस दैट जो भी है, उसी तरह से अध्यात्म के अंदर आप इसको एक लॉ की तरह मान के रख लीजिए. सत्यम ज्ञानम अनंतम ब्रह्म. The divine is infinite, the truth is infinite, knowledge is infinite by definition. कहानी खत्म. कम से कम एक क्लैरिटी तो आई आपके माइंड में. कम से कम वाली बात नहीं है कोई, मतलब यू आर नॉट सीकिंग फॉर सम ऑर्डिनरी सेटिस्फैक्शन व्हेन आई से दिस. इट इज द ट्रुथ. इट इज अ वेदांतिक पोस्टुलेट इफ यू वांट टू से इट. अब वो ना वर्ड्स का लिमिटेशन है. आई नो इट इज नॉट अ पोस्टुलेट, आई नो इट इज ट्रुथ, बट अब मेंटल लैंग्वेज में बोल रहे हैं तो क्या करें, ये सब लैंग्वेज, ये वर्ड्स यूज करने पड़ेंगे, राइट? सत्यम ज्ञानम अनंतम ब्रह्म. दैट्स वाई शब्द ब्रह्म के अंदर उसको बांधा ही नहीं जा सकता यार. No book can ever contain the infinite. How is it possible to? Infinity by definition cannot be contained in anything. Like that. Yeah?
Here I'm pasting it. Okay.
Thank you so much. Anybody else has any question, comment, any sharing, anything? Otherwise, we close with silence.
Yeah, I have one question, not for you, but Arora ji, because you said in one of the sessions.
Is he there, Arora ji? He's left it, I think.
Oh, he's left. Okay. Anyway, he studied philosophy, so I was just wondering.
Bhaiya, Dhaval bhai, can you paste it on the WhatsApp group instead of the chat? Along with the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. You can ask him next time.
Yeah.
Or you can ask him on the group. Tag him and ask him.
Yeah, I will ask him. Ask him because the Vesh.
Anybody else? Yeah. Sarita, Jeeti, Yogesh bhai, Kalpana, Rai Kishore, no? Harish, Mona, no?
No.
Okay. ठीक है, we'll close with silence. 1 minute silence.